Welcome to Ask the Life and Intimacy Guru, a calm, thoughtful space where we talk about love, emotional closeness, marriage, desire, communication, conflict, and the hidden psychology of relationships. Today's episode is about something every couple knows: small fights, the kind that start with dishes, laundry, a late reply, a messy room, a forgotten errand, a certain tone of voice, a phone call, a change of plans, a partner coming home late, a partner not noticing you were tired. And suddenly, what seemed like a minor issue turns into a much bigger emotional storm. One partner says, "You never help." The other says, "You always criticize." One says, "You don't care." The other says, "You're making a big deal out of nothing." And both people walk away feeling misunderstood. But here is the deeper truth. Couples are often not fighting about what they think they are fighting about. They are fighting for something underneath. They may be fighting for respect, for recognition, for closeness, for trust, for freedom, for control, for the feeling of being valued. So today's question is, why do couples fight about small things? And what are they really fighting for? Let's begin with today's story. A young woman writes, "My husband and I keep fighting about household chores. It sounds silly, but it has become a serious issue. In my family, after dinner, we clean the kitchen right away. We washed the dishes, wiped everything down, and only then relaxed. In his family, they ate, talked, watched TV, spent time together, and cleaned later. Now, when we have dinner, I feel anxious if the dishes are left in the sink. I feel like he doesn't care. I feel like I'm the only responsible one. He feels like I'm controlling and can't relax. He says I make the house feel tense. The fight is always about dishes, but it no longer feels like dishes. It feels like respect, love, and whether he understands me. Why does such a small thing become such a big fight? That is a beautiful and very real question. And the answer is this: because the fight is not only about dishes. The dishes are just the surface. Underneath them, there may be a deeper emotional question. Do you see me? Do you value my effort? Do you respect my way of living? Do I matter to you? Can I relax with you? Do I have a voice in this relationship? Will I lose myself if I give in? Will I lose you if I disagree? This is why small fights become big fights, because a surface issue can open an old emotional wound. One partner thinks, this is just about when to clean the kitchen. The other feels, this is about whether my needs matter. And once the emotional meaning becomes bigger than the practical issue, the fight changes. It's no longer about plates and spoons. It's about recognition, power, value, trust, feeling loved. Now let's slow down. Every person enters a relationship with an operating system. That is, a way they learned life should work. How people talk, how people argue, how people apologize, how people clean, how people manage money, how people show love, how people handle stress, how people express anger, how people deal with silence, how people celebrate, how people rest. Most of us don't even realize we have an operating system. We think, this is normal, this is obvious, this is the right way. But your partner has an operating system too, and they believe their way is normal as well. So when two people build a life together, they are not just bringing love, they are bringing two histories, two families, two nervous systems, two emotional languages, two ideas of what home should feel like, two definitions of respect, two ways of handling stress, two versions of normal. That's why love alone is not enough. A couple has to build a new system together, not your family's system, not their family's system. A shared system, a relationship system, a home that belongs to both of you. Now let's talk about one dangerous sentence many couples carry silently. My way is the right way. That sentence can quietly destroy connection. Because when you believe your way is the only right way, your partner's difference starts to feel like a threat. If they clean later, they're lazy. If they clean immediately, they're controlling. If they want to talk now, they're dramatic. If they want space, they're cold. If they save money, they're boring. If they spend money, they're irresponsible. If they're quiet, they don't care. If they speak loudly, they're aggressive. But sometimes your partner isn't wrong. They're simply different. And different is not always dangerous. Different is not always disrespect. Different is not always rejection. Sometimes, different is just different. Love asks us to meet difference without immediately turning it into a fight. Now here is one of the most important questions in relationships. What are we really fighting for? Not what are we fighting about. What are we fighting for? Because what you're fighting about may be dishes. But what you're fighting for may be respect. What you're fighting about may be phone use. But what you're fighting for may be attention. What you're fighting about may be money. But what you're fighting for may be security. What you're fighting about may be time with friends. But what you're fighting for may be freedom. What you're fighting about may be intimacy. But what you're fighting for may be feeling desired. What you're fighting about may be career choices. But what you're fighting for may be identity. That question changes everything. Because instead of attacking the behavior, you become curious about the meaning. You ask, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to my partner? What fear is underneath this fight? What need is not being spoken? What are we protecting? What are we asking for without saying it clearly? That is where repair begins. Now let's talk about curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most powerful relationship skills. It helps you move from reaction to reflection. Reaction says, "You're wrong." Curiosity says, "Help me understand." Reaction says, "You always do this." Curiosity says, "What happens inside you when this comes up?" Reaction says, "You don't care." Curiosity says, "What does care look like to you?" Reaction says, "You're trying to control me." Curiosity says, "Do you feel unheard or unsafe when this happens?" Curiosity doesn't mean you accept everything. It doesn't mean you have no boundaries. It means you're willing to look beneath the surface before you attack. And that matters because in relationships, we often make a painful mistake. When I react badly, I explain it by my circumstances. I say, I had a long day. I was stressed. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. But when my partner reacts badly, I explain it by their character. I say, they're selfish. They're careless. They're immature. They're controlling. They're cold. That is unfair. We give ourselves context, but we give our partner judgment. We say, I had a reason. But we say, they have a flaw. That destroys empathy. So the next time your partner reacts in a way you don't like, try asking, what else could be going on here? Are they tired? Are they afraid? Are they feeling unseen? Are they protecting themselves? Are they repeating something they learned long ago? And ask the same of yourself. Why did I react so strongly? What did this situation touch in me? What story did I tell myself? Was I fighting about the issue or fighting for something deeper? That is emotional maturity. Now let's return to the woman and the dishes. She believes dishes should be cleaned immediately. He believes they can wait. On the surface, that's a practical disagreement. But emotionally, she may feel, if the kitchen is messy, I feel unsupported. If he relaxes while I clean, I feel invisible. If he doesn't help now, I feel alone. He may feel, if she demands cleaning right away, I feel controlled. If I can't relax after dinner, I feel like I'm failing. If every evening becomes a task, I feel no peace. Both may be telling the truth. She is not wrong for wanting support. He is not wrong for wanting ease. The question is, can they create a new agreement that honors both? Maybe they decide, after dinner, they spend 10 minutes cleaning together, then relax. Or maybe they decide weekdays are for immediate cleanup, while weekends allow more flexibility. Or maybe one cooks and the other cleans. Or maybe they set a timer. The practical solution matters. But the emotional meaning matters even more. Because if she feels valued, the dishes lose some of their charge. If he feels trusted, the dishes feel less controlling. The goal is not for one person to win. The goal is for the relationship to feel fair. Now let's talk about power. Many couples think conflict is all about power. Who wins? Who gives in? Who controls the relationship? Who decides? Who has the final say? But sometimes what looks like a power struggle is really fear. One partner may be afraid of losing the other, so they agree too quickly. They stay quiet. They avoid conflict. They say yes when they mean no. They fear abandonment. The other partner may be afraid of losing themselves, so they resist. They argue. They defend their way. They fear being swallowed by the relationship. One person is afraid of rejection. The other is afraid of suffocation. And suddenly, the couple isn't just fighting about dishes anymore. They're fighting about survival. One says, "Please come closer." The other says, "Please don't control me." One says, "Choose me." The other says, "Let me breathe." That is why compassion matters. Because once you understand the fear behind the behavior, the fight becomes less cruel. You may still need boundaries. You may still need change. But you can speak differently. Instead of saying, "You always try to control everything," you might say, "I wonder if this feels stressful for you because disorder makes you feel unsupported." Instead of saying, "You're lazy and careless," you might say, "I wonder if you feel pressured when I ask for things immediately." That's how conflict becomes connection, not by avoiding disagreement, but by listening for the deeper need. Now, what can couples do in practical terms? Here are 5 steps. Step 1. Name the surface issue. Say it clearly. "We're fighting about dishes." Or, "We're fighting about phone use." Or, "We're fighting about money." Or, "We're fighting about time." Don't pretend the practical issue doesn't matter. It does. Step 2. Name the deeper meaning. Ask, "What does this issue mean to me? What does it mean to you?" For example, to me, a clean kitchen means peace and respect. To me, relaxing after dinner means closeness and freedom. Now you're no longer enemies. You're translators. Step 3. Stop trying to prove whose family was right. Your childhood home was one system. Your partner's childhood home was another. Now you need a third system. Your relationship system. Ask, "What do we want our home to feel like? What agreement can we create together? What do we want to keep from our families? What do we want to change? What new tradition belongs only to us?" Step 4. Take accountability. Instead of only saying, "You need to change," ask, "What can I do differently?" Maybe you can speak more gently. Maybe you can listen before defending. Maybe you can stop walking away. Maybe you can stop interrupting. Maybe you can explain your need instead of attacking. Maybe you can give your partner time. Accountability is not blame. Accountability is power. Because the only person you can directly change is yourself. And when one person changes the pattern, the relationship often changes too. Step 5. Create a small shared agreement. Don't leave the conversation as a theory. Turn it into a practice. For example, when we disagree, we'll ask what this is really about. Or, "We won't discuss serious issues late at night." Or, "We'll spend 10 minutes cleaning together after dinner." Or, "When one of us is stressed, we'll say it early instead of exploding later." Or, "We'll use humor when the fight starts getting ridiculous." Small agreements protect love. They help couples stop repeating the same argument again and again. Now let's talk about a very powerful sentence. "I'm thankful you're here." Many people say, "I'm busy, please understand." That isn't wrong, but it can accidentally make your partner feel like they're on hold while your real life happens. A more loving version is, "I have a stressful week ahead, and I want you to know that your support helps me handle it. I'm grateful you're here." That changes everything. It doesn't say, "My life matters more," and you have to adjust. It says, "Our relationship matters, and your presence strengthens me." That kind of language makes your partner feel included, not pushed aside. Important, not secondary. Loved, not managed. Sometimes one sentence can soften the whole emotional atmosphere of a relationship. Now, what if your partner shuts down when you try to talk? Try changing the setting. Not every serious conversation has to happen face to face on a couch. Some people open up better while walking, driving, cooking, listening to music, doing an activity, playing a game, watching a movie that brings up a topic. Sometimes direct questions feel too intense. Tell me about your childhood. What are your fears? Why do you act like this? Those questions can make someone close up. Instead, create a gentler doorway. Ask, was there ever someone who really shaped how you see love? Which movie relationship reminds you of us? What song describes how you feel when life gets heavy? What did your family teach you about conflict? What does peace at home look like to you? These questions feel less like interrogation and more like invitation. Curiosity works best when it doesn't feel like a test. Now let's bring this back to the heart of today's episode. Couples fight about small things because small things carry big meanings. A plate in the sink may mean, "You don't see my effort." A late reply may mean, "I'm not important to you." A messy room may mean, "I'm carrying this home alone." A partner walking away may mean, "My feelings are too much for you." A critical tone may mean, "I don't feel accepted." So before you fight harder, pause. Ask, what is this really about? What am I fighting for? What is my partner fighting for? Are we trying to win, or are we trying to understand? Because if the goal is to win, one person loses. But if the goal is to understand, the relationship has a chance. So here is today's deeper lesson. Conflict is not the enemy of love. Disconnection is. Two people can disagree and still feel close. Two people can argue and still feel safe. Two people can have different habits and still build a beautiful life. But they must learn how to translate conflict into meaning. They must learn how to move from blame to curiosity, from reaction to reflection, from my way versus your way to what are we building together.